Hello, my name is Bianca Quadra, and today I will be presenting my research project regarding COVID-19 in Jersey City. The research question that I have been using throughout the study was, how did the socioeconomic status of Jersey City residents affect their economic and health hardships? The goal of this research is to point out data that highlights the current socioeconomic status of Jersey City residents and provide information how that has influenced their economic and health hardships during COVID-19. COVID-19 is a respiratory illness that can spread from person to person and has spread, causing a pandemic worldwide in the recent year of 2020. Socioeconomic status refers to the social standing of an individual or a group of individuals. It can be recorded through income, occupation, education, or even housing. To provide some background information, I would like to start off by saying that the US experienced a huge economic downturn in the midst of COVID-19. The negative effects of the pandemic had left various consequences for people of all ethnicities, race, and socioeconomic status, etc. This pandemic widened the income inequality in the US. In New Jersey, the pandemic created many economic hardships for the residents, such as putting tens of millions of people out of work and also causing them to struggle to afford adequate food or even paying their rent. Many people lost their jobs and had their hours cut, along with having limited opportunities. In order to explore the current socioeconomic status of Jersey City residents and provide information on how that has influenced their economic health hardships during COVID-19, various already existing sources needed to be explored, such as government agencies' statistics, news articles, research reports, and documents. The data regarding the socioeconomic status of Jersey City residents for this study were collected through the United States Census Bureau and the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. These government agencies' statistics contained information regarding the unemployment rate since the beginning of 2020, along with income rates of various ethnicities since the year of 2018 to 2020. The unemployment rate data provided insight into the financial hardship that majority of the low and medium income Jersey City residents had experienced. It also highlighted the correlation between unemployment and COVID cases. Even though it is more reliable to have statistical data from sources like the Census Bureau and labor statistics, it was difficult to find accurate statistics regarding the economic struggle of Jersey City residents specifically. Although there were sources that spoke vaguely on the topic of the economic struggle during COVID-19, it was difficult finding a non-biased source. Throughout this research, it was decided that research articles were the safest and most reliable alternatives. The research article in the New Jersey Policy Perspective site was an unbiased piece of data that helped the study continue onto its path. This research article went towards the formation of a data table that regarded the COVID cases, hospitalization rates, and mortality rates of various races in Jersey City. This data was also later used along with unemployment rates to help form a result for the thesis of this study. There was also use of newspaper articles and previous studies, such as a New York Times article and a Rutgers study on the impact of COVID-19 on undeserved communities, which ultimately highlighted the socioeconomic status of various races throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as it pointed out that Black and Latinx residents are the majority of the median and low-income classes of Jersey City. The data derived from the sources discussed COVID-19's effect on the NJ economy and employment rate, along with showing how the economic downturn has affected JC residents of different socioeconomic statuses. In this figure 1, it shows the employment rate amongst workers of different wage classes in New Jersey. Figure 1 influences the socioeconomic status of Jersey City residents, as it shows how that status is being negatively affected, and the increase in unemployment can link to the spread and increase of COVID cases along with death rates, which later on will be seen in Figure 2, which is on the next slide. In Figure 2, as shown here, it is shown how ethnicity influences the COVID age-adjusted cases, hospitalization, and mortality rates of Jersey City residents. The graph highlights how Black and Latinx people are the most susceptible to contracting COVID-19. Black and Latinx communities have been recorded to die at younger ages and have a larger amount of younger residents than white populations, which is because of the lacking socioeconomic conditions and systemic racism in the healthcare system. This ultimately concludes that throughout the elderly, there is a significantly greater amount of white residents than Black or Latinx individual residents. And since the elderly are the most vulnerable age group against COVID, it is then possible that the white death rate is comparably higher than the COVID case rate. Because there are more white elderly residents who suffer from the age vulnerability as opposed to Black and Latinx residents. But Latinx and Black residents are most likely to contract, be hospitalized, be hospitalized, and die from COVID-19 compared to the white Jersey City residents of the same age group. Therefore, in New Jersey's case, Latinx and Black residents have been notably more likely to be distressed from COVID-19 in every aspect compared to both white and Asian Jersey City residents. Continuing on to Figure 3, it can be seen that poverty rate also has a correlation within the unemployment and COVID case figures from before. From this, it can be inferred that Black and Hispanic Jersey City residents have the highest poverty rate from the years of 2019 to 2020. The bar graph shows Black residents to have 16.3% poverty rate and Hispanics to have 15.7% poverty rate, whilst white and Asian residents stay behind with a much less poverty rate of 5.6% and 5.8%. It now can be concluded from the results that both low and medium income Jersey City residents suffered the most when it came to the unemployment rate, which skyrocketed in the midst of the pandemic, as it was shown in Figure 1. It can also be noted that the hospitalization rates amongst every age group of Latinx, Black, and Asian residents are far greater than the white residents. In addition to this, it can be overall pointed out that the poverty rates of each ethnicity has also influenced the COVID case rate, along with the unemployment rate, since it can also be seen that Latinx and Black residents, from Figure 3, have the highest poverty rate, which is why they consist of the majority of low and medium income Jersey City residents. Now, as we come to this conclusion, I can say that with the study being conducted on the terms that no experiments, surveys, or participant observations were being taken, it can be concluded that the accurate data of various documents, articles, and statistics has resulted in the correlation between the socioeconomic status of Jersey City residents and the economic and health hardships that were faced from the occurrence of COVID-19 pandemic. It can be inferred that socioeconomic status of low-income residents, which had consisted of majority of the Black and Latinx communities, suffered greater economic and health struggles compared to the higher income residents, which had consisted of the majority of white and Asian communities in Jersey City. Moreover, the review of the socioeconomic status of Jersey City residents cannot directly lead to the assumption that all low-income residents or high-income residents don't have the same struggle when it comes to the contraction of the coronavirus. The results only prove the objective that there are certain groups that have suffered more than others, but that does not rule out the significant point that the coronavirus can be the cause of any person's death. Furthermore, the results do support the thesis that socioeconomic status can cause a harsher influence on the effects of the pandemic struggles on Jersey City residents, varying on where that person lives, what income status they have, and what ethnicity they are. Overall, the study itself allowed me to better understand what was going on within my own community, as it explained how people in Jersey City, which is where I live, were affected by this pandemic. And as a Latina myself, I was able to have insight into how some people, specifically the Latina community, were more affected than others throughout this pandemic, this ongoing pandemic. Now, for future research, this study can be used as rationale for either which communities should receive the most attention in regards to recovering from the pandemic setback, or how the government should address the ultimate plan for the pandemic recovery for New Jersey or Jersey City. Also, future research should attempt to test if these results can serve to also be accurate in other states amongst this nation and confirm that this is not only the case in Jersey City. Additionally, in that the study was conducted with only the idea that socioeconomic status can be the effect of COVID-19 related struggles. The data cannot show the truth of whether or not other factors can contribute to COVID-19 related struggles. But the knowledge of the socioeconomic status of Jersey City residents and the correlation between economic and health hardships of the people can be helpful in the understanding of the communities in need of help and create resources so that those may be able to fully recover and be able to avoid another occurrence similar to this one. It is important that it is taken into consideration on how there are people who need a quicker solution or more help as soon as it is possible before the pandemic continues to make it more difficult for communities to recover. And now the next two slides are of my bibliography, which were used for my research paper in this slideshow. Thank you for listening to my presentation.